Welcome, friends,
to the How-To Heretic.
I am Uncle Mark.
And I'm Uncle Dan.
And this is your user's guide to life on the outside.
That's right. Leaving religion is the first step into a larger, better world.
But it can also be a scary world.
Ooh.
Things work differently now.
Never fear, that's why we're here.
We're your audio uncles. And with help from good friends and experts in all sorts of fields,
we're going to share the stories and seek the knowledge to build a great life.
After all, you only get one that we know of. So you better make the most of it.
Let's do a show. Hey, Uncle Mark.
It is I, Uncle
You're
Mark.
Back.
I'm back. I can't believe
amazing.
it. Boy, those 2 weeks off were seems like an eternity. But I'm glad to be back behind the mic, even if we are splitting a border, Dan.
Yeah, you know, you were luxuriating in your free time up there in Canada.
Yes, it's just been the life of a bon vivant here in Lower British Columbia. But it's good to be back, and we got a fun show this week. So thanks everybody for putting up with Uncle Doug's mediocre bullshit. I'm going to talk about a certain personage that maybe was one of the original podcasters in America, Dan.
Yeah, I mean, not in a good way, but sure, he was definitely a pioneer. And then
there's more than a few podcasts that think Mr. Hitler wasn't so wrong, and he was the first of them. So then
there you go.
I think Uncle Doug's going to join us to talk about something gross and holy.
Yeah, sure. A little mediocrity from Uncle Doug there. And then I am going to jump in and teach us all about a very sexy former god. We'll dip into the graveyard.
Can't wait.
And pull out some fertility loving. Anyway, let's do this show. What do you think?
Let's do it. I'm happy to do it again.
Hurrah!
Well, Uncle Mark.
Yes, Uncle Doug.
Welcome back to my show.
Whoa. Whoa.
It's nice to have you on for once.
That's fun. You know, kids, when the substitute is there for like a week because your regular teacher's getting, maybe a hysterectomy or something, and you think, oh, it's going to be great. This is going to be the whole time. And guess what? It's not. It's fucking not.
And eventually that crabby old teacher comes back.
Mrs. B comes back. You're fucked. This is you being fucked by Mrs. B. So I'm glad you had a good time, Doug, but, nothing lasts forever.
True enough.
Yeah.
Well, as some of our listeners might be asking, who are you? Apparently you have a who is that?
I have a who is that. So I'm going to explain to Uncle Doug and Uncle Dan, who's also with us.
Hi.
I think Uncle Dan is the only one who hasn't missed a week so far.
Yeah, that's true.
We're going to talk about a who. This is our new segment, Who Is That? And a couple weeks ago, we talked about his reverence, the weirdly necrotically appointed bullshit Dalai Lama. And this week, we're going to talk about a very important person you may never have heard of. Who has had quite a little bit of influence in these United States, or those United States that I can just see from where I'm sitting.
Right, yeah. You're not in these United States.
No, mercifully, I am not.
You're a foreigner.
And hopefully the fever y'all are having will break by the time I get back. So get to work on that. So today we're going to talk about the predecessor to your Rush Limbaughs, your Alex Jones, your dumb Tucker Carlsons, and probably most cogently your Glenn Becks. Yeah? So
wow, really, we're putting Glenn Beck as our pinnacle of cogency in this list. That is a sad lineup right there, my friend.
That list, that may be true.
It is a very, very sad lineup, and we think of these creatures, these guys like this, as kind of creatures of modernity in America, of cable broadcasting and Fox News and of course The Blaze. But
yeah.
But they predated this kind of dumb-dumbery, kind of predated modern technologies, And, you go back to the founding of the Republic when there were ye old lonely pamphleteers that were passing out salacious things from the Gutenberg press. But somewhat after that, with the advent of radio, a few of them did pop up. And the religious broadcasting world existed long before your TBNs and your cable news and your Jim and Tammy Faye Baker. And one person that is really quite significant to this whole movement, if you want to call it that, was a guy named Charles Edward Coughlin, who was strangely enough, a Roman Catholic priest. Now, he became prominent on the air in the late 1920s and the 1930s, but which was not a time when there was a lot of love for Roman Catholics in this country. Right. It was.
Right. Yeah.
So it's odd that he rose to such prominence because, remember, it wasn't until the election of John F. Kennedy that we even deigned it possible that a Catholic could be president and give allegiance to the United States rather than to Rome. Right.
Huge mistake.
Boy, did that end up being wrong.
Huge mistake.
Exactly. And so now we decided just to put every Catholic in this country on the Supreme Court.
Right.
So this guy started, he's from, what's the horrible little town? Hamilton, Ontario. Now I know Hamilton, Ontario. It's a terrible town, and it would make anybody a crazy demagogue if they had a microphone and a radio. So he moved to the booming economy of Detroit, Michigan, and was appointed to a really tiny parish. And he decided that tiny parish really wasn't enough for him, so he managed to find his way to a local radio station where he'd give these rather fiery sermons. So he kind of started off with the just religious content, right? And really just speaking to the small, mostly Irish Catholic immigrant community of what would become the Rust Belt, right?
Sure.
But pretty soon he decided that he was an economic populist. So he began
really important for all priests and men and women of the cloth to take strong stances on the economy. That's a very important thing, I think.
Absolutely. If you are a professional clergy member of a basically ancient feudal society of hysterical virgins, what you should be talking about is the economy.
One that doesn't pay taxes.
Right.
Exactly. What you should be talking about is the economy, because you're in a cannibal cult. So he started this minor revolution with this economic populism, where he originally early in his career started weighing in 1930 on the side of Franklin Delano Roosevelt, trying to get Roosevelt elected president with the New Deal, because the Great Depression had completely destroyed the country. So the New Deal seemed like the only way out of it. Yeah. And he was famous for coining the phrase Roosevelt or ruin, and the New Deal is Christ's deal. Right? So
what's Christ's deal?
What is the deal with Christ?
What's the deal with Christ?
What's the deal with Christ? So so far so good. But as the 30s wore on, and I guess Roosevelt was not as piously religious as Father Coughlin would have liked him to be, and as fascism was rising in Europe, Father Coughlin's views took on a slightly strange complexion.
Oh no!
And he eventually turned against FDR, and began espousing some views, basically saying, in the way that Henry Ford did, saying some very nice things about Mr. Hitler.
Oh my gosh! Right.
And
Roosevelt is ruin.
Roosevelt is ruin. So he then founded something called the Nationalist Union for Social Justice, which was a workers' rights organization. So a lot of what he was getting at was, as he would constantly say, chasing the money changers from the temple.
Oh.
So in the parlance of the 1930s, who would you guess Father Coughlin thought the money changers were.
Somehow I knew this would end up with the Jews.
The Jews. It's always the Jews. So he started publishing he had a weekly newspaper in which he started publishing a serialized version of the Protocols of the Elders of Zion.
Oh,
So,
good.
yes.
That's what you need, really.
Yeah, so I think we need to do a whole segment about the Protocols of the Elders of Zion and really as a public service announcement to warn our listeners about the dangers of the international Zionist conspiracy.
Right, of course.
We'll have Eli on to do that. But for those of you who don't know what this horrible thing is, it was a early 20th century Russian forgery, kind of a Russian nationalist forgery, saying that someone had discovered this ancient manuscript by which the Jews were going to take over the entire world. So far so good. They're
right.
They're killing it with that. Later on, after he was discovered to be such an incredible anti-Semite, his views started to become openly anti-democratic, and he started calling for the abolition of political parties and even questioning the value of elections. So, kind of a crackpot, and his timing interfacing with the Second World War and how attitudes were about to change about intervention in the United States, etc., was unfortunate for him.
Now, you call him a crackpot, but I do have to say that after certain events of the last couple years, I'm questioning the efficacy of elections as well.
I second the motion.
Put. Well, that's why I'm bringing Father Coughlin on to say he was right.
That's right.
So even though he was, a bit of a crackpot, it's important to imagine a time when, look, we're three crackpots yelling into a microphone.
Yes.
But now there are millions and millions of microphones, and there's websites and podcasts and cable news channels, et cetera, et cetera. Well, in the United States of the 1920s and 1930s, there weren't that many megaphones, right? There were not many ways for a national audience to receive information from someone.
Yeah, in any given market, there were 4 radio stations, and that was about it.
Maybe 4 radio stations, no television. There were newspapers, but if you were in a rural part of the United States, which was a large part of Father Coughlin's audience, you were lucky to get a few radio shows a week. His being one of them.
Right.
So his at the height of his listenership in around 1934, he had 30 million listeners a week.
Holy cow!
And on some weeks, they think as high as 45 million. Now, in 1930, the population of the United States was estimated at 120 million.
Wow. So adjusted for population, those are how to heretic numbers right there.
Exactly. That's that's just our patrons.
Yeah.
Right? So, he was talking to a quarter or more of the United States.
Wow.
With this really strange kind of nationalism. So here's I talked about the party he founded, the National Union for Social Justice. Here is some of the articles of faith that he wrote into their charter. Among those articles of faith were work and income guarantees, nationalizing necessary industry, wealth redistribution through taxation of the wealthy, federal protection for workers' unions, and decreasing property rights in favor of the government controlling the country's assets for public good.
Whoa.
Now,
It's kind of a
you
mess.
guys both went to college. What economic or political system does that sound most like to you?
That's a socialist thing.
Yeah.
That is a socialist thing. And yet he was fervent in his ranting and raving against socialism and communism. So I think that's a really interesting examination of the incoherence of nationalist populism, right? In the same way, it's very much like, look, I won't speak for Dan and Uncle Doug. I will speak for myself. I don't make my politics incredibly vague here on the How to Heretic. If my tailor would tell you I dress to the left, but the incoherence of like with Trump, right? That he's protectionist one day and isolationist, or an internationalist the next day, and now we're having this massive trade war that penalizes all of our allies, including Canada. Well, it does nothing to China, or et cetera, et cetera. It's just this doesn't make any sense because none of it is kind of an evidence-based ideology or an economic theory that has any research to back it up, right?
Right.
So all these things like a guaranteed income and wealth redistribution certainly sounded good to probably poor farmers trying to make it through the Great Depression, but it was essentially communism by another name, right?
Now,
It's kind of amazing I mean, this is one of the great capabilities of the human brain, which is to completely ignore very important data sets and then espouse conflicting ideas. It's an amazing thing it's a trick that we humans can do. It's very impressive.
So Father Coughlin was espousing these views in the mid-30s, yeah?
Yeah.
So Bernie Sanders was in his second term? Bernie Burn! Boom!
Oh,
Hey-o!
well, goodbye, half our listeners. So, among his many slogans, one was less care for internationalism and more concern for national prosperity. Rolls right off the tongue.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, if you spend 5 minutes listening to Alex Jones and don't blow your brains out as a mercy killing, or if you ever listen to Glenn Beck's more unhinged like chalkboard rants, Father Coughlin actually spoke well. He was not totally unhinged, kind of random psychopath. You can go to YouTube and get some of his speeches, and he speaks pretty well. He's a very educated guy. He did kind of have a little bit of a Kramer thing going on with his hair that he kind of got moving around like the thing on top of a rooster, so he looked a little goofy. But he did speak well, even though the populism he was espousing was kind of all over the map, right? Wow. So he became, because of his huge listenership and then his demand to, like Lindbergh and like Ford, to stay out of the war, right? To remain neutral because, that Mr. Hitler is up to something that might work out. He really was on the radar of FDR, and even the Vatican basically wanted him to shut the fuck up. And
Wow.
the Pope himself intervened to try to tell this guy to tone it down, and he wouldn't.
Wow.
And the cardinal of whoever was in charge of Michigan was actually sympathetic to him and refused to discipline him. So as this went on, when it was decided that the United States would break its arms embargo and its neutrality clause and begin the Lend-Lease program to give material goods to the Brits to help them win the war, and he inveighed against it, incredibly. Then when we started giving material support to Britain, it became enormously popular. He started to get hurt, and his numbers went down. And it was about that time that the Code Committee of the National Association of Broadcasters adopted new rules, which placed limitations on the sale of radio time to spokesmen of controversial public issues.
I
And
suppose
basically,
that law is no longer in effect.
this is when FCC licenses happened.
No kidding.
So basically, the Roosevelt, who was many things, but oftentimes not the greatest friend of the First Amendment, right? Who anybody who wants to look up Japanese internment can take a look at some of Roosevelt's less idealistic policies. And one of them was, let's invent licenses because the airwaves are a precious national resource.
Right.
And so basically they were invented to get Father Coughlin off the air. And
kidding.
and it worked. So he was kind of railroaded off the air, which I do think is kind of controversial because, that is the government basically limiting somebody's free speech. But he was a Nazi sympathizing shitbag to the extent that Dr. Seuss made many political cartoons at his expense, as a fascist sympathizer. So there you
Wow.
go. That's Father Coughlin, who born in the 1890s and lived until the day Star Wars was released. So had a wonderful long life of demagoguery and being a Catholic priest. So
Well, there you
go.
go.
Rest in pieces.
All right. Well,
Rest in pieces.
That's that guy, I guess.
Yep. So next time you're enjoying some Alex Jones just to relax, remember you could be listening to it on an old tube radio in the farmhouse out by the holler, and it wouldn't be so different.
It's the way to do it. All right,
Yep.
moving on.
Let's move on.
Well, hey, Uncle Mark,
Hello.
now that you're back on the show, we missed you.
Boy, is it good to be back. Yeah, I missed y'all. I missed all the people out there.
Yeah, I'm sure you did. We've asked Uncle Doug here to tell us he has been riding a sacred cow, and we need to learn more about it.
Yes, and we're gonna slay this sacred cow through drowning.
Oh,
We're gonna take it down. The best kind of way to die. I hear.
this is for a
I hear it's
cow
the
anyway.
best.
Cows
Yes.
love it.
Well, it would
They
be
love
an
dying.
unusual death for a cow. We're going to talk about holy water today.
Holy water!
Holy water. So,
Nice.
holy water is used in traditions from Christianity to Sikhism for cleansings, anointings, baptisms, and the warding off of evil. Now,
yeah.
in the Christian tradition, which includes Anglicans, Protestants, Roman Catholics, Eastern Christians, the whole gamut, the use is non-scripturally based. There is no
Oh, really?
There's no scripture in the Bible about the use of water as a totem. There's some
Really?
stuff in the Old Testament about cleansing. There's some stuff in the New Testament about baptism. But the use of it as a cleansing agent or to ward off evil didn't come about until about the 4th century CE.
Oh, that's interesting. I would have assumed that. I mean, you know, there's all this stuff about baptism, and
Right.
there's all this stuff about like water figures prominently. You know, parting
Exactly.
seas and whatnot. But yeah, the blessed stuff.
The little vial of holy water type stuff didn't come about until about the 4th century.
Well, that's probably just
Chapter
because they didn't
after
have any.
chapter about cutting the tip of your dick off, and they never got to water. They never got to haunted water.
Never
Well,
got to washing
I'll-
the knife first.
All I'm saying is that's when the vampires must have arisen.
Right, exactly. So it was attributed originally to Matthew. The Christian tradition says the Apostle Matthew originated the practice, but again, it didn't appear until about the 4th century. There is a long Latin prayer that you must be intoned by a priest to sanctify the water, which I will spare all of us. It's a long prayer.
Really?
Yeah.
You'd think you could do it in just a couple things.
Like so many other things, you just kind of do a little wavy thing. and
Yeah,
there you
sure.
go. Nope, this one is
Yeah.
a long prayer. So in the first several centuries of Christianity, baptisms were typically carried out in moving bodies of water, so rivers, oceans. So the blessing of water was a little bit problematic.
You know what image came to mind when you said moving bodies of water? For me, was like the limo with the hot tub in the back. I was like, wow, that is so weird. It's so specific.
well, I mean, back in the day, it was, of course, a hay cart with
That's right.
a hot tub in the back. But
With a barrel.
Same thing.
However, there are some Eastern Orthodox churches that actually perform a blessing on rivers and streams, the same one that the Catholics perform on little tiny vials of water.
See, this is what I'm saying. Somebody just bless all of the fucking water. It's all part of a cycle. It's all part of a system. You can get it all.
See, now here's the problem with that. In Catholicism,
sell it.
You well, actually go online, Google holy water, and hit the shopping button.
Oh.
You can buy it
Wow.
in all kinds
Well,
of forms.
that's what I'm saying is I'm betting like 30 pieces of silver that the origin of holy water is fucking for commerce, right? It's to make it for sale.
I
Gotta
wouldn't
be.
doubt it for a second. And the other thing is you can't, in Catholicism, once water has been consecrated, it can't be disposed through the regular plumbing. It must be poured down a special drain that usually goes directly into the ground because you can't have the waters mixing. Obviously.
Can you pour it into the ground? Can you just pour it on the ground?
That's a good question. I don't know the answer to that.
Can
What
I
if
drink
the
it? And
flag?
then if I drink
What if
it,
the
does it have to go into a special, like, urinal?
What if the flag touches holy water? Right.
That's
This
the
is-
rapture.
Oh,
That's it.
So be careful.
Objects or relics that are introduced to holy water must be allowed to dry in a special basin, and then that's called a sacrarium.
Ooh.
And then washed with regular old water. Now, having a small warm basin of water that all the literally unwashed masses dip their fingers into and then smear on their faces seems like a bad idea, especially in the Dark Ages. It was a very, very bad idea. In the late 19th century, bacteriologists, which was a very new science, found staphylococci, streptococci, coli bacilli, loafers cacalus, and other bacteria in holy water from a church in Italy.
You made up at
You're
least
saying
three of those.
the entire cast of the Jersey Shore. Is that what the...
That was the situation. In 1995, a burn patient that had been blessed by holy water acquired a massive infection, and of course the source turned out to be holy water.
Oh, my God.
During the swine flu epidemic of 2009, Bishop John Steinbach of Fresno, California, recommended that holy water should no longer be kept in Petri dishes. Fonts. But instead, they invented an automatic motion-detecting holy water dispenser.
Not unlike the thing that you hold your hand under to get soap or whatever.
It's the same technology.
Yeah.
So I think my earlier allusion to a limousine hot tub is not so far off the mark.
A limousine hot
Right,
tub that hasn't been washed hasn't been cleaned out in all of Van Halen's touring history.
in centuries.
They just need to chlorinate the holy water.
Right. Now, salt can be introduced to holy water in some traditions, but not all.
Oh.
And so this automatic dispensing system has actually mitigated the infectious disease problem, but it's only used in a small fraction of churches. And holy water that's not dispensed out of the holy receptacle is thought to be about 86% infected with fecal bacteria.
Of course it is.
Oh, God. Oh, Jesus.
All right, so in some Eastern Orthodox and Byzantine traditions, holy water is used for baptisms, and then the baptized drink some of the remaining water. The pious drink it every morning. It's part of that ritual. Anglicans, Lutherans...
Wait. Drink it?
Yeah, they drink it. Not in
Where do they get
Catholicism.
it? Out of the bird bath at the front of the church?
No, so some of them walk to the church every morning and drink out of a basin at the church. Some of them Some of them get quantities of water blessed by the priest that they keep in their houses for drinking every morning.
You buy your gallon of water.
Right.
You take that to the priest
For a 25-minute Latin prayer.
If I'm a priest, like you said, Mark, I'm buying just 900 gallons of water, blessing them all at once, and then you sell that for a markup. You got yourself a nice little.
You got yourself a religion.
You're gonna upgrade your rectory on that.
Yeah, and once you've got your gallon of holy water blessed, you give it a shake so that all the poo particles are up in it, and you don't. It's like fruit on the bottom. You don't want it all at once. You want to mix it up in, right? Sir, between the fucking toilet at the front of the church and then the goddamn blood drinking chalice at the other end of the church, it's amazing any Catholics are alive.
Yeah,
it's amazing it's how they have survived the bacteriological invasion. It's disgusting.
It might be that they've all built their immunity system so well they're going to outlive us all at this point.
Yeah, super Catholics. Super Catholic cockroach people.
Expialidocious.
That sounded a lot like a slur.
It will be in the future.
Yeah, no doubt. So Anglicans, Lutherans, and Methodists all have a much more limited, less mystical use of holy water, mostly for baptism. And Mormons and J-dubs don't have anything really.
Right. Well, Mormons have the sacrament.
The sacrament, but it's not...
Which isn't holy water.
No.
It's just made for drinking. But I'm just saying it's not wine.
No.
So it's as holy as water's going to get.
Yeah, and it's just it's symbolic. So the water itself isn't really sanctified, and the same with the J-dubs.
Right.
The Sikh religion...
That way, they're better because of it, too.
Yes, did I not say better? I meant to say better.
Better, obviously.
In the Sikh religion and in Hinduism and other animist religions, water takes on far more of a mystical and ritual role. The Ganges River, for example, is considered to be the holiest river in all of Hinduism.
Oh yeah, I've been there.
And how clean was that river?
Well, let me tell you something.
Cleaner than the fucking thing at the front of a Catholic church. It sounds like.
You wish. Let me tell you something. I sat there and I was on the Ganges River, floating in a boat on the Ganges, watching all of these people. I was in the holiest city in all of India, which is Varanasi. And all these people go down and they take the holy dip, which is how it was described to me, meaning they stand waist deep and then they wash it all over their bodies and in their faces and whatever. Downstream of where I was, there was a crematorium, and I was like, well, thank God that's downstream of everything. And then we paddled upstream, and there was another crematorium upstream of everybody, and I was like, Jesus Christ. And they're literally burning people and just dumping that into the river. So,
right, and the incineration is not exactly complete, right?
No.
It's,
no,
partial,
and it's not. Yeah, so yeah. There's in the Catholic Church, you're going to get your microscopic poo bacteria. In the Ganges, you get that times a million.
It's amazing there's any religious people left at all.
Right?
Wow.
Yeah, I don't get it.
There are differing traditions of holy water in Shia and Sunni Islam, and not surprisingly, unknown numbers of people have been killed because of the difference between water from the spring at Kaaba and the water of the spring in Karbala.
Oh well,
right.
I mean, I'm strict Karbala water. Like that is, I will fight you if you go Kaaba. What is it? What's the other one?
Kaaba.
Yeah. I know for a fact that Karbala water is the shit.
There's more antioxidants.
Yeah, it's basically nature's kombucha.
It's more anti-Semitic.
That's right. We're very pro-Occident on this podcast.
Yeah.
The Wiccans use salt water in their rituals as a reminder of the sea from which we all came, which I kind of like.
Yeah, but who cares?
There goes our
They're not
Wiccan
real.
listeners.
You came from the sea, you dirty animal.
Did I?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
Only if he evolved less than 50 yards from shore.
Oh, we're not doing this again.
Nope. Damn it. I walked right into it.
This.
I walked right into that.
So, of course, holy water's taken quite a place in our pop culture, appearing in such movies as The Exorcist, The Omen, Rosemary's Baby, and, of course, The Celestine Prophecy.
Sure.
Everybody's favorite.
The power of Christ compels
was
you.
it? Was it in the Celestine Prophecy?
Oh, I just had to work that in.
Did I tell you I watched that movie after we did the bit?
No.
Oh fuck! It is unbelievable. I gotta tell Eli about that. It's fucking amazing.
Yeah.
You guys have to see this thing. Yeah.
Well, there it is, folks. That's,
all right.
That's your holy water.
Holy
Wow, that was super
water.
disgusting. I was pretty sure there'd be more.
All right. Thanks, Uncle Doug. Let's move on.
Let's move on. Well, Uncle Dan.
Yes, sir.
Line upon line, week after week, week after week, measure upon measure, I sound like an idiot when I'm riffing. But week after week, people continue to listen in, to lend a hand, to put their shoulder to the wheel, and occasionally put a penny in the old kitty.
That's true. We do this show, and those people who not only appreciate what we do, but also feel some sort of want to feel some sense of ownership, and they want to go and get an early access to every episode of this show. What they do is they go to howtoheretic.com and they click on the patron button, and they go to Patreon and they just give us a little bit of their money for every episode that we do, and then we love them more than the rest of the listeners.
Yeah, for $1 a week. For $1 a week, you can be a Monday person, not a Wednesday person. There's nothing wrong with Wednesday people, but Monday people are better. So you can be that person for $1 a week. Or look, if you like the show, great, throw some money in. If you hate it and want it to stop, throw some money in. See if you can make it stop. Do it.
See what happens.
Any case. Yeah, see what happens. So
it's worth a shot. We don't give you many ways to interact with us, but giving us money is the strongest, most powerful way we can do it, and we have some folks to thank on that
let's do
front.
it. Let's thank them.
So for this week, big thanks go out to Saul,
Saul of Tarsus.
Saul of something, to David, to Amber, and to Jeffrey, who all have decided that they're going to be amazing people and help us make this show a reality.
Merci to all those people. And again, you can join the ranks of the elect and have your name written in the stars for just $1 a week. If you go to How to Heretic, click on Patreon, throw some cash in there, and we will continue to every week to yell it into the sky, and hopefully you'll pick up the broadcast. And
by the way, don't be confused by Mark's insistence on that $1 a week. If you want to give more, we will allow it.
We have not yet discovered if there is a digit limit in the give box of Patreon. So let's see if we can find the bottom of that barrel.
Let's do it.
All right, moving on. Well, dearly beloved, and of course, Uncle Dan and Uncle Doug, we're gathered here today to bury, I don't know, some fucking guy, probably a guy. Who are we talking about today, Dan?
It's not a guy. In point
not
of
a
fact.
guy.
You fucked it up already.
All right, we'll start again. No, who cares?
We're
a dead person. Who is it?
We're raiding the graveyard of the gods again. And
yes,
I have gone Egyptian. We're gonna walk like an Egyptian this time.
Classic.
It's hard to go wrong, right?
No, you can't do it.
Does that song feel racist nowadays? I haven't listened to it in a little while.
Walk like by the Bengals?
Yeah.
Wow.
Fuck if I know. I haven't listened to that in forever.
Let's play it right now for everybody.
You're accusing Susanna Hoffs of being a racist, and I will not stand for it.
I was always a Belinda Carlisle guy.
You always were a Belinda Carlisle guy, Doug.
Well, while we sort that out, and we'll
What
sort that out.
are we talking about?
Behind the scenes. I'm gonna ask you guys a question. If you were now, you know that the Egyptian gods and goddesses
are the real ones.
They are the real ones, A, and B, they are the ones. They usually have like some animal parts and some human parts, and it's kind of a build your own adventure sort of thing.
Yeah.
And I want you guys to design for me. I'm gonna tell you how this goddess was referred to. What she is the goddess of fertility and childbirth.
Boobs.
Okay, that's good.
Sorry,
strong start.
Just came out.
That actually had nothing to do with what I was saying. Sometimes that just happens with Doug.
That's Doug's ringtone. His phone just rang. That's not actually what he was saying.
Right. So, goddess of fertility and childbirth. Also, a little bit of death. Like we'll get to this. But referred to various times as Lady of Heaven, Mistress of the Horizon, she who removes water. Apparently, we have a water theme.
Yes.
Also, Mistress of Pure Water. And Lady of the Birth House. Now, if you were designing that god, what do you think you'd do?
It would probably be a lady cat in a pair of scrubs with tongs for hands and a sparklets bottle on her back. Am I close?
You're right on the money, baby.
Yes.
Can we throw some wings on just for the hell of it?
I like it.
She should,
right.
she should probably fly. She should fly for sure.
Here's what the Egyptians came up with. Basically, the person we're talking about is Taweret or something like that. I'm pretty sure I nailed the pronunciation on that. Depicted usually as having the arms and legs of a lion, so there's your cat.
Oh.
Yep,
the tail of a crocodile.
Oh God.
The belly and pendulously hanging breasts of a pregnant woman.
Thank you very much.
Yes, there you go, Douglas. And the head of a hippopotamus.
Oh Lord.
So
and since she was the goddess of water, she was referred to as Moist Towette.
Good Lord.
I'm out. Thank you very much.
You're fired from the show. You are fired from the show forever for that.
This is she might also be the god of spare parts. Like this was what was left when all the other gods were made, right? Let's give her some boobs and the croc tail and what's this thing? Oh God, a hippo head. All right. Put it in the back of the temple. Nobody will notice.
I watched the movie Annihilation last night, and that sounds like a description of one of the monsters in that movie.
Spoiler.
I think, yeah, right. I think that is one of the monsters in that movie. She eventually eats little, what's her name?
Spoiler. The Canadian Netflix. Do you know what they have on Canadian Netflix at this point? I think we just got Gone with the Wind. I think we got Birth of a Nation.
Birth of a Nation.
So now there's 4 movies on fucking Canadian Netflix.
Hey,
so
they've got the entire Kids in the Hall catalog. So be happy.
Oh, you wish. You wish.
I don't
they
know
did.
that that's true. I don't know.
No, they don't.
It's probably the Strange Brew guys, and that's it. Here's the thing about this. She is a hippopotamus god. Egyptians have, as you can imagine, an interest. They've long had an interesting relationship with the hippopotami.
Yes.
You'll notice that with the legs of a lion, the tail of a crocodile, she represents all of the most dangerous animals that these bastards ever encountered.
Exactly.
Including a pregnant
Does she have
woman.
fangs?
Including a pregnant woman, which is the scariest of them all. Yeah, the hippopotamus is actually the big killer of people, of all of these animals.
That's
for
right.
those who don't know, still one of the most ferocious people killers in nature. So interesting that she would be that someone who was bringing about the birth of humans would be comprised of animals that were basically death instruments.
I just pulled up the images on Google Image.
You heard the word breast and couldn't help yourself. I
My
know.
computer exploded. It's worse than it sounds.
Yeah, yeah. If you look at it, it's definitely worth looking up. TAWERET will get you to some very interesting imagery.
It sounds like when the Sid and Marty Krofft, when they were just petering out of ideas, and they'd done fucking HR Puffin stuff and Sigmund the Sea Monster, and they're just like, oh, what's left in the fucking puppet shop?
They were
Sew
out
it
of
together.
ideas. Out of ideas, but not out of psychedelics.
Yes,
and this is what happened.
It's alive.
So, male hippopotami in ancient Egypt were basically manifestations of chaos. They were killers, really.
Yeah.
But the ancient Egyptians noticed that the females were really very protective of their young and very into their babies. And therefore, they thought, you know what, this is who we need protecting our young'uns. So,
Yeah. Well, maybe they also thought they were sexy because of
well,
those big juicy butts. Now, tastes have evolved over time. You know, remember during the 18th century, Rubenesque women were very in vogue. You know,
right.
Very plump. So I don't know. I can't speak to the sexual mores of the Egyptians, though sometimes I try. I think that maybe that's part. I'm just going to say that's what was up.
I think Rubens himself called his own women hippopotamesque. So there you go.
Having big pendulous breasts was a hippopotamus.
Yeah. Yes, indeed. Oh God. So anyway.
Remember when we had female listeners? That was the best.
That was fun. It was good while it lasted.
That's over now.
That's over now. Now it's just breast talk with Doug.
Yes. Comparing women to hippopotamus.
Our ratings are about to shoot through the roof.
That's true. We
Here
should
on
do
the-
Tit Talk will be a spin-off show.
Tit Talk here on the Hippo Heretic.
Well, I really did have a whole bunch of other stuff planned to say, but apparently we're not going to get to it. We've run out of time.
No, let's say it. Say it. We have all the time in the world because
Okay.
nobody's listening
Nobody's
anymore.
listening anymore.
Oh God! All right. Well, so here's an interesting thing. A lot of these ancient gods had their own cults. Where you'd build a temple to this god, and you'd go and you'd meet there and do whatever. Tarawet, what did I call her? Tawaret did not have cults. She was a home god. You practiced, you worshipped her in the comfort and sanctity of your own household. As were all of apparently the hippopotamus goddesses. They're just more. They're more of a home god.
I can totally see the hippopotamus as kind of a symbol of house and home, kind of domesticity, and
Right.
because
You
all
know-
that makes is sense. That's good. I
Well,
get it.
it's why you so often see hippopotamuses wearing aprons. It's just part of the thing. She would show up on like ritual daggers and wands made of actual hippopotamus ivory from those
nice.
big old teeth and whatever. So she
Yeah.
was carved onto that, and those would be used presumably during birth ceremonies to sort of bless the birth and everything.
Oh,
because,
God, I thought you were going a different direction with that.
well, no.
Jesus.
They were just waved about, not actually used on the lady.
I thought it was like a shoehorn. You just kind of
Well, you never know.
Yeah.
You know, when you're in a tight spot, sometimes you use what you have at hand.
That one
You
lady listener who
improvise.
was like, I'm going to give him one more shot. Just tune back out.
Right, yeah, exactly.
and she happened to be a midwife. She's like, nope, this is bullshit.
We're done. She would also show up on some household items like a pitcher where you would put milk in and it would pour out of her breasts, and that would be presumably a way to bless your house. She shows up in some old ancient funerary texts. There's these texts called the pyramid texts that have spells written out, and in spell 269 in the pyramid text, there is a mention of her of one of her possible avatars. Like, there are a whole bunch of hippopotamus goddesses, and they're often considered to be like the same person with different names or avatars, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But this demonstrates her nurturing role, because the deceased king, for whom this spell was written, it was said that he would suck on her white, dazzling, sweet milk as he ascended to the heavens. Dazzling is always a good. That's a good one to throw in for milk. She also took on the role of a funerary deity at some point in the history, where she would become. Her image was placed in funerary texts and tombs were decorated with her imagery, which some scholars are thinking means that she was probably helping. She was thought of as guiding you into the birth of your afterlife, kind of thing.
Oh, the
That's it.
afterbirth. Let's call it the afterbirth.
The afterbirth, the
Yes.
life after birth. Yes.
Yeah, I
think that's-
just coined that phrase.
Yeah, nobody's ever used that before, so perft. I think that's
Must credit
great.
at How to Heretic.
Registered trademark. These now, mind you, I may have misspoken earlier, because Tawaret and her fellow hippopotamus goddesses of fertility should not be confused with Amit, which is another hippopotamus composite goddess who was responsible for devouring the unjust before they passed into the afterlife.
It's a common mistake. And it's a common mistake, and you can be forgiven. But really, people try to up your hippopotamus game.
Keep it straight, folks.
Yeah.
She's featured on some versions of the myth. So there was the very big myth of the Eye of Ra, which I'm not going to go into the whole thing of, but this is in various mythological things, but she apparently, upon the Eye of Ra's eventual return to Egypt, Ray's eventual return from Egypt, she assumes the form of a hippopotamus. Presumably, she's Tawaret now, and begins flooding the Nile, which demonstrates Tawaret's primary function as fertility goddess. And
She floods the Nile with her dazzling milk.
her titties of the Nile. So there you go. It's a goddess who she's all about birth and
Crocodile tails.
Crocodile tails, and yeah, I mean, snips and snails and crocodile tails. That's what birth goddesses are made of.
Yeah, it's a fucked up zoo over in the old Egypt, isn't it? Like just a
It's delightful.
hot mess of weird shit, but also wonderful.
Yeah.
And for that we salute this culture long gone.
Yeah, and
Hail taro to root. Stew.
Hail
Whatever.
taro root.
Taro root.
I smell toast.
We'll let's dig a hole and put her back in the graveyard.
I smell hippo milk. Let's move on. Well, friends, that's it for this week's show.
Hey, we'd love to hear from you. Go ahead and send us an email at howto@howtoheretic.com.
Or if you have any sexy hippopotamus stories that the Penthouse Forum refused, you can call us and leave a voicemail at 903-88-HOW-TO, which is 903-884-6986. I'm also on Twitter at HowToHeretic. You can talk about sexy hippos there.
Yeah, or you can just be a genuinely sexy person and be one of our patrons. Thanks again to all of them.
Thanks to Cody Layton for editing the show.
And thank all of you for tuning in. We sure do appreciate you.
Bye, friends. Talk to you next week.
Bye-bye.